Australia's electricity crisis. Victoria sits on hundreds of years of supply of cheap coal, yet its global warming obsessed government has somehow managed to run short of electricity. And this could hurt other states as well. The Australian Energy Market Operator says most of Victoria risks blackouts this summer. If it's a hot one, nearly 1.5 million homes could be without power for 4 hours. Extraordinary stuff. And the state's energy minister couldn't rule that out today.
Well, can you guarantee supply or not?
We are being frank, and the fact is this: there's always a risk. No, I'm not. The reality is this: there is a risk that we won't have sufficient supply.
Now, this is a scandal because this is a state that used to export electricity to other states. They had so much of it. Now, Victoria is a threat to them, having to suck in more power from other sources. Today, I was looking at it was taking in from Tasmania, taking in from Queensland and New South Wales. And it's doing this just when some of the other states are also now running short of electricity. Joining me is Alan Moran of Regulation Economics, who's written extensively on our power crisis and the rise of green energy. They're related. Alan Moran, thank you so much for your time. Why is Victoria looking to run short of electricity this summer?
Well, I'm not sure about running short this summer. The report itself from AEMO, the regulator, really paints quite a sober picture, saying, well, it's not going to be that bad. It's unlikely we'll run out. If everything goes wrong, then Victoria could be in a problem. But the more important aspect is really what you said previously, and that is that we've basically run down the electricity industry in the state for what should be the cheapest electricity in the world is now one of the most expensive. But we've seen prices in the last 2 or 3 years increase 2.5-fold. We've seen reliability, which was always absolute, pretty well, on the edge every summer now. But, all of this is caused by government regulations subsidising renewable energy, which is being forced, then is forcing out coal. So coal is a lot cheaper, B, it's a lot more reliable, but the government is actually forcing it out by subsidising renewables. And indeed, has done more than that in this state in Victoria, has put a rather large impost, which it calls a royalty, on the coal which feeds the power stations, and that was probably what the straw that broke the camel's back in the case of the loss of Hazelwood. So we've basically got the situation whereby our great industries, the smelters, etc., are really on homicide watch, if you like, at the present. They're being shorn up at the present time throughout Australia by regulations to actually offset the regulations which is causing the impace.
That's absolutely right. In fact, that's one of the problems that the government says, AEMO says Victoria's facing this particular risk because it's got a coal-fired power station down and needs to be fixed in time, and a gas-fired peaking plant also needs repairs. Alan, is the problem here, because you're also looking at the problem in New South Wales with the Liddell coal-fired power station about to come out of, be decommissioned over the next several years. AEMO says that 750,000 New South Wales homes could also be without electricity for up to 3 hours in a heat wave in 5 years from now. Is it the problem that global warming policies of the kind that you've described that are intended to drive out coal-fired power stations have made repairing coal-fired power stations just a really expensive business and perhaps not an economic one anymore?
Yeah, that's right. They've actually starved them of markets by reducing their ability to run through allowing a priority, if you like, to wind. And also then there's a stop-start is causing them to break down. So we do have these problems. But, I think... Can I just
clarify for people that don't know what you're talking about? The stop-start, are you referring here to the fact that when the wind blows, suddenly you get all this cheap wind farm power, which is great, but then the coal-fired power stations can't compete? But then the wind can suddenly die, and we have to have backup, which the wind farms can't provide.
Yeah, right. So it causes a loss of the economies and profit for the power stations, but also causes them to break down more. And we are now seeing more breakdowns. There's a very inhospitable attitude on the part of governments to new power, so there aren't any new coal-fired power stations being built. The only power stations being built are wind, and they're critically dependent upon subsidies and are highly unreliable as well. But I've got to just say that the issues raised by the regulator here are somewhat different from the ones she raises herself. She says, OK, that we're in for these terrible problems in the next few years, and we need to build this, and you need to give me more powers to actually buy and contract for electricity, and we need to build more transmission. If you build more transmission, of course, that would be another subsidy to wind. But if you actually read the report, it's much more sober. It says, well, you know, there are some problems, but it's unlikely we're going to face a catastrophic breakdown in the next few years. That said, we're facing a long-term catastrophe of our own making by forcing out this low-cost energy, which was previously the backbone of our economy and of our industries.
No, it's just terrible. And, of course, power prices have been shooting up over the last 10 years, as anyone can tell, and particularly for business, which has just been really, really difficult. Alan Moran, thank you so much indeed for your time.
You're welcome.